Welcome to Florida Focus, a college football podcast. My name is Brandon, and I am a lifetime Florida State Seminole fan.
And I am Chris, and I am a relaxed Gator fan.
And we are putting aside our differences as rivals to bring you the fantastic world of college football throughout the Sunshine State. This week we're going to recap a heartbreaking Noles loss, as well as talk about the Knights, the Panthers, the Owls, as well as the Bulls. And it was a very, I don't know if interesting, just overused word, Chris, but what was your take on this when you said relaxed? How else did you feel just sitting back and watching these games?
Yeah, it was nice just as a Gator fan not having to worry about it, not having to stress this weekend, knowing who your opponent is next weekend. It's a very relaxing time as far as Gator fans go. It was just nice just not having to worry about the upsets and being upset and being part of that. You already had your stressful weekend last weekend. It's just a relaxful weekend this weekend.
So, lucky you. We would normally defer to you, but and that would be the Gators talk. Nothing there. But let's just dive right into the Florida State Seminoles, and if you don't mind, I'll take the floor from here and get some frustrations out and do a little venting here.
This is what I'm here for you, buddy.
I appreciate that. So, if I don't start with the positives, then I'm just gonna forget it and get too wrapped up. So I'm gonna go there.
Okay.
And you know me, I'm still pretty good about picking that kind of stuff out, even a loss. Florida State does go down at home versus Boise State by 5. Still a lot to be happy about if you're a Seminole fan. So let's keep all of these things in mind as we go forward. A few things here. On the third play of the game, we forced a fumble, recovered it, and our offense scored very quickly. You saw a 38-yard touchdown run from Cam Akers on 4th and 1. All of our touchdowns scored in this game were by a different Seminole, even our backup tight end. So it is very obvious right away. Coaching staff is getting everyone involved, and it's going to be very well distributed. We pressured Boise State's quarterback the entire night. We used some trickery to get some touches to Clay Helton. Cam Akers even decided to throw a pass. We talked about that being something to look out for before. Ontario Wilson, wide receiver, gets involved. Our backup running back, Khalil Laburn, as well as Thompson, who caught a very long catch that was down inside the 1. You know, we had great signs of just offensive buy-in. By that I mean our wide receivers are blocking, and that's something you just have to coach, but it's hard to keep on the guys, and they did it really well. You know, you had a long touchdown to Helton, a great read, a great pass by Blackman. We had an 18-point lead twice. Our defense did get some pressure. We'll talk about the opportunities later, but we got a sack. Marvin Wilson had some pressures, not quite as many as I would have thought. Less penalties, only 5 penalties this entire game. We did have a really good red zone defense. We had like illegal touching. We had a play to knock a guy out of bounds. And, this game could have been worse. I was also impressed by some coaching decisions. One example I'll point to was early third quarter. It looked like we were short in our first series at a halftime. It was going to bring up 4th and 1. But Taggart decided to challenge the ruling on the spot, and he was correct. So we actually ended up getting a first down there. We did get some really good special teams coverage. The net punting was great. We stopped a lot of guys from returning the ball. We did have some forced fumbles, and there was just a lot to be said about the confidence, the coaching, and just the fun. We see our first sighting of the Scary Terry mask, and that's just what I love about our team, and that's what I'm hoping we get more of. So I'm gonna take a quick breather here. Those are some positive things. What else did you notice from a Gator perspective we did right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you have a first half to look at and point to, especially that first quarter, and that's how you want to start a game. You have to finish the game, obviously, but that's how you want to start a game. I was going to say what you were going to say, what you already said, I should say. The blocking from the receivers. Terry's long touchdown catch and run doesn't happen if that receiver isn't blocking. So there is some buy-in there, and you see the potential that Akers is, that you've always talked about, that he can be. And you see, he went over 100 yards this game. He got himself a touchdown. But maybe you might have to implement a good Akers, bad Akers, because the fumble later on. But there are some positives to take from this. You played a solid first half against a really good team. Can you do that the whole game? That's something different, and that's obviously the coaches are definitely going to talk about. But you see potential in the offense. You see Terry. You see how potentially he can cause problems, and it's just a matter of stringing it out for 4 quarters. And the defense, they looked really solid at first. Again, that second half, it bit them.
Right, very good observations there. Good Akers, bad Akers. That's let's hope that one doesn't have to come out as a game we play.
Yeah, that's a callback to last episode.
Yes. Good Franks, bad Franks for Florida. Yeah, I think I agree with all of that, and you're right. You should definitely come out of this week 1 versus in 2018 very excited. So I think there's all of that. I would love to just continue this conversation and talk about all the good things, but unfortunately we don't have really anything else to discuss. So we'll have to move on to the opportunities. And there were a lot of them. Let's talk about some missed tackles. There were a ton of them. There were guys out of position. Our linebackers made a lot of misreads. Either the quarterback was splitting the zone on throws, or they were just getting mixed up. There was, just on the defensive side, you talk about a team that allowed 108 plays, and that was all the defense's fault. The offense, you can't get mad at them for scoring quickly. You just have to continue to help them out. Now the second half was a tale of two cities, really. They gave up 621 yards of offense to Boise State. Can't happen. 36 points. They allowed 214 rushing yards. They just ran at will. On the offensive side, we had to punt 7 times. We were only 1 of 12 on third downs, and we lost 2 fumbles. So we were kind of helping them out as well. There were a lot of points left on the field. Boise State did that too, but for Florida State, when you have a snap miscue on 3rd and goal, are unacceptable. Can't let it go over your head. That was kind of the first dagger, in my opinion. We have to settle for a field goal there, and we go up 24. I think it was 24-13 at that point, 24-6. I can't remember, and they never really quite felt the same after that. Blackman in the next couple of possessions fumbled, and that led to a Broncos touchdown. Tamarian Terry was involved early, but he kind of disappeared later on. He did have a couple of intermediate passes, and it's very obvious to me that is his Blackman's go-to receiver on 3rd down. He's your 3rd down guy. If you need some help, that's who he's looking for first. So I would have loved to see more involvement there. Helton did kind of drop a pass that was like early 3rd quarter. There was one, I'm surprised this didn't make a highlight reel, but Samuels III just got trucked by their running back, and then he did recover to make the tackle, but he just looked silly in the process.
Yeah.
There goes the bad Akers, his 8th career fumble, and this was right after we had turned the ball over and looked to go down and score and just extend that lead in the second half. Instead, we're going to give it right back, and that was the second dagger to me. We were never really recovered after that. We did try to stop them later in the 4th quarter. We forced a fumble inside the 10-yard line. Yeah. Only have 2 guys fight over it and no one recover it. So they end up scoring a touchdown. There's another one we could have gotten back. 3rd and 17 with the game on line. We allowed them to get a first down. And right after that, we forced another fumble. Didn't recover. So we had to settle for a punt return. And then when the game was on the line, you knew you had to get a first down. 4th and 4, we convert, only to have it called back by holding, and then another holding call on a conversion we didn't make. So we need to pair our offense with our defense better, and that means a defense that's ready, a defense that can stop some big plays, and a defense that can get off the field. Even if that means you take a chance and you allow a big play from time to time, that's really the way this has to go.
The stat that sticks out to me, I mean, a lot of them are jump out to you, but Boise State, the time of possession, pretty much 40 minutes to 20 minutes. And that was most of it was the second half. And you saw FSU defenders, especially the linemen, were gassed and tired. And you're right. You said it earlier. It could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse because the second half, Boise State was just dominating them. There's a couple times that they left some points on the field, like you said, but they were just dominating on offense and they wouldn't get off the field. And that their freshman, was it Buck something, Buckmeyer? I'm not sure. He kept them on the field, progressing down the field, and Florida State just could not recover. And I think I was going to say it, but you already said it. The back-to-back fumbles, basically, where Boise State fumbled the ball, and then Florida State, soon after, Akers drops it. I think that was the big momentum shift right there. And then right before Boise was going to score, two guys just fall on the ball.
Yep. They
didn't fall on the ball. Boise State fell on the ball. I think those are the 2 points where you're like, I'm not saying that's the ball game, but that's one of those you got to, if you're going to win the game, you're going to have at least one of those go your way.
Sure.
And they didn't. So, yeah, it definitely have to be frustrating watching that game, knowing how good you were, and just seeing it slowly slip away. And as it gets closer and closer to the end of the game, Florida State's going to be a little more tight. And momentum's a real thing. It's a real thing. You see it in college basketball as well, where you're like, nothing we do is going to help. They have everything going for them, and it did Boise State this game.
Yep. And at that point, you just consider. I actually said this. I was yelling at the TV. Obviously, yelling a lot. But one of the things I was yelling about was, after one of these long reviews or an injury timeout, then you take another timeout because maybe that's how you stop momentum or give your guys some rest. On defense, you got to do that. That's something that I really thought would have been kind of a weird coaching decision, but in the end may not have been so silly after all. And obviously, one of the main things I look at with the team, I said, how many second half points did you score? And with Florida State, it was 0. You scored none, and you can't win games, and you won't win games doing that.
Right. Yeah, you can't just lay an egg for a whole half. You can't do that. I don't care how big of a lead you do. You have to keep going. Do you think they let up, took the foot off the gas, or they just couldn't get on the field to score?
I don't think they gave up. No, there's no way, in my opinion, you see an offense that says, I think we scored enough today, because you could never score enough points. That's just how it is. And not getting the ball back, just inopportunistic. They were just constantly getting owned, and I mean, Florida saw a little bit of that from last week where you said, how many times did the ball touch the ground and we didn't recover it? It felt like way more than it was.
Yeah, it looked like in the Florida-Miami game, it looked like everything was going Miami's way. We just got lucky enough at the very end there to hold on, but Florida State couldn't do that. They could not. They saw it coming, but they couldn't stop it. And I know that's definitely got to be frustrating to watch and see. But there are some positives. I mean, you look at the numbers. Blackman threw for over 300 yards. He threw for 3 touchdowns.
Right.
He didn't throw any interceptions. You hate that he fumbled it, obviously. But if they just keep that momentum going, if I was them, I wouldn't even look at the second half. Say, look at the first half. This is who we are. This is who we know we are, how good we can be. Do that again. Do that for 4 quarters.
Oh, I like that approach. That would definitely be the thing. I mean, you want to show the things they need to clean up. And I think that, Florida State is close. We've talked about this, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat a loss here because I never like to see the Noles lose. But we knew going in Boise State would be a good team. And it turns out this is what Boise State does. They hold the ball for a long time, and they're very effective running. So if Florida State wasn't prepared for it and had 9 months to get there, that's still on them for sure. But that was the biggest thing to me, was just to see that was the one area I didn't expect there to be a gap, was defense.
Yeah, you'd figure with a freshman, Bachmeier's the name, coming in that your defense now at home could hold them or at least contain them. But the fact that they didn't is concerning.
Yeah, that guy took a beating too. Florida State kept after him all night. He just kept going. There was was a couple of times where like, I think that might have been a fumble. And both times, by the way, when they reviewed this play, like it could have been a fumble, scoop, and score. It wasn't. And actually, the second time, I'm like, you don't even need to stop the game. Even Florida State fans know it's not. Let's just keep it going. But, that's still, even though it's a non-play, it still ends up in the quarterback's head. It has to. And it didn't let him bother him. Yeah. He just kept trucking. Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see. I was looking at FSU's schedule. I'm like, how many opponents we play will end up in their conference title game? I was like, well, Boise State's favored to win the Mountain West. Louisiana Monroe, probably not. Maybe Florida if they pull an upset. But this may be one of the toughest teams Florida State plays all year. To have been close, that shows some improvement. Obviously, there's no win there, and Boise State has a terrible schedule, so they may go undefeated or lose one game the rest of the year. Still, though, this is a victory. You have to take it home, and Boise State was just more prepared.
Yeah, especially it being moved from Jacksonville to Tallahassee.
Right.
You have to win this game. Absolutely.
Those are kind of my initial. The final thoughts I would say is for Florida State fans, there just continues to be overreactions with losses. This is going to happen, and if you look at things now, if this turns into another 5-7 season, then we can look back at this game and say there was a lot going forward. I really still don't think that's the case. Maybe from whatever your projection was for wins, you maybe subtract one because you thought you'd win this one. That's it. You'd have to really show me that they don't improve, that they just give up on themselves, on their team. And I don't think that's the case. I saw a lot of camaraderie. Once Cam Akers scored that first touchdown, nearly busted his ankles on the sidewalk, along with Tamari and Terry. I'm like, you guys both have knee concerns. This is not cool. But, they were celebrating. They were happy. They were glad for each other. And you saw, now the second half, you still saw some celebrations and you saw some plays being made. They didn't give up. And that's certainly what they did last season.
Yeah, there's definitely positives in this game. But it stinks knowing the score, but there are some positives.
Yes, indeed. All right. I'm off my soapbox. Any final thoughts?
No.
Well, and as we said in the preview, this was a question mark game, one of two. This one in Syracuse. And they came up with an L in this one. So, let's see if they can just switch that around. Get the other one. Get some other games you don't expect to win.
Right.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead and whip around the state then. I'll let you take some time here, Chris, to cover some teams down in South Florida. So let's see. Miami was off, obviously. How did the Panthers do? I guess we'll start with them.
So FIU traveled to Tulane, and they lost pretty bad, 42-14. They weren't good at all. They just were not good at all. And the story of the game was the defense, and particularly the running defense. 350 yards on the ground, 350 yards, and they gave up 4 touchdowns on the ground. That's just not good. You're not gonna do much doing that. And I really thought that they had this game. I really thought they're going to. I figured Tulane was going to put up a fight, but I thought FIU was going to win this game. But when you play like that on defense, you're not going to do much, really.
Yeah.
So they got a Morgan, 200 yards, touchdown, and interception. But really, on the other side of the rushing defense, they only rushed for 59 yards themselves. Again, most games are one on the line, offensive defensive line, and they got worked by Tulane. That's a tough way to start a season, getting shellacked like that.
They did. They were thumped, and I was kind of disappointed in their performance, really. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that you saw them starting to correct, especially ending the season on a high note, just seemed to have gone out the window. And Tulane is not a formidable. I mean, they are in a slightly tougher conference in the American, but you don't expect a lopsided victory like this by the Green Wave. It just
it's definitely winnable. It definitely was, but it was bad. It was real bad.
Yikes. I wonder if Tulane's going to be better than we realize. I don't know. I don't want to overreact, but we'll see. The American did press this weekend. It was overall top to bottom, and I'll talk about that in a second with UCF too.
Right. Okay. All right. So speaking of UCF.
Yeah. The Knights, comfortable win at home. They beat FAMU 72-0. FAMU just overmatched here. I mean, I think it was like 9 minutes left in the second quarter before they even got a first down. And, this is kind of what you expected. Wimbush, to me, has not improved. I looked at him. He has some overthrows. He did fumble the ball a couple times. And he just seems to be the same Brandon Wimbush we saw at Notre Dame. On the other side of that, Gabriel, the quarterback who we knew would see a lot of action, looked nearly perfect. Yeah, he had a couple of passes that didn't quite connect or receivers dropped. That's going to happen. You're going to scramble a little bit, not see some pressures. It's fine. But he looked like the better QB in this one. Quadri Jones, their third-string guy, actually gets touchdowns late in this one. And I guess the really big storyline coming out of this game is Brandon Moore, one of their star defensive corners, is out for the season with an ACL tear. And it's questionable whether or not he should have even been in the game. We're talking about a third quarter of a blowout when the Knights were already up, I think, 45-0 or even higher than that.
The answer is no. The answer is no then.
They had already cycled out a lot of their defensive line, if not the entire group, and it was just a freak thing. So let's wish them all the best. But we'll see if that impacts their passing defense, which is the strength. Their rushing defense has always been the only weak part of the Knights over this 25 out of 26 game win streak. So that's what I look to see. How does that change their approach? But overall, just a comfortable, good win for the Knights.
Yeah, that's what you expect. That's what you want. You want to see a score a lot of points to a little point. 72 though, it's hard to score 72 against air. So give them credit. That's a lot.
Yeah, and what I would point to with the Knights, I'm sorry, real quick before just to finish the thought, is in the very bad FCS games the last two seasons, even when the Knights were hot, they only scored 38. So that's literally doubling up on what they used to do.
Right. So, and then to get the shutout as well, so getting your backups, because usually games like this you'll have your second, third stringers in, and they're the ones that's going to give the touchdown, the late touchdown, right? But the fact that they didn't, pretty good.
I agree. All right. Sorry about that. Go ahead with the Owls. What you got?
All right. So the Lane train went north. It went into Buckeye country. They played Ohio State, and they got worked. 45-21, and they made some adjustments on offense and defense, and made it I had to say interesting, but they made it closer at the end. Okay. But they start off the first quarter 28-0, down 28-0, and let Fields have a field day. Very intended on that.
That's good.
I'm pretty sure I'm not the first one to think of that, but he went off, and they couldn't recover. Like I said, they made some adjustments, but forced some turnovers, but that was about it for them. Robinson, 178 and a touchdown. But again, when you go out there and you rush for 22 yards, you're not going to win the football game.
Yeah,
it's just not happening.
Very surprised with that one as well.
Yeah, you knew the loss of Singletary was going to hurt them, but who's going to fill that gap? Apparently no one is, at least this first game. So I know, again, I understand it's at Ohio State. I get that. Yeah. So maybe they'll find something along the way. But, yeah, really hurting them. But Ohio State, very balanced on offense. 232 in the air, 237 on the ground. That's real hard to do. Real hard to stop, I should say.
Right.
Of course, they're going to score 45 if that's the way their offense is going.
Yep. And the only thing I'll add is, two things. I am glad to see they scored 21 points because they went to Oklahoma last year and they looked a lot worse than this. And the other thing that shouldn't be surprised to anybody is that their tight end, Bryant, was their leading receiver, 6 catches, 79 yards. He's probably a top 20, 22 tight end in the country. And so in the absence of a running game, I would see them rely on him a lot more, actually. So he may get a total of like 10 targets a game, which is high for a tight end for sure.
Yeah, but you got to get the ball to your best playmakers until you find a running back. It's probably him.
Yep, I agree. All right. So interesting to see what their future holds. Nice pun there. The lane train, we've heard that one. The field day, that was new to me. Sorry, I must be behind the times.
Hey, I'm pretty sure there's someone out there. He grew up his whole life with that last name. That it's not new, but new to me. So
okay. Love it. All right, so moving over to Tampa, we're going to talk about the University of South Florida Bulls and their game against Wisconsin.
Oof.
And probably the worst performance for the entire state. It was very, very bad.
Yeah.
They only scrounged together 157 yards of offense the entire game. Got shut out. They lose really, really badly to Wisconsin, 49-0 at home. And just again with this trend of rushing, 26 rushing yards on the night.
Yeah.
I just don't know what happened. 2 picks by Barnett. Cronkite couldn't get going. Couldn't get their tight end involved. The rushing attack of Wisconsin just would not let up. I mean, they just started saying, hey, we can throw to Taylor now. He doesn't have to just run.
Yeah.
He can score 2 touchdowns in the air. And, man, I'm at a loss. This is now, let me do the math here, 7 losses in a row for the Bulls, going back to last season. And I don't see any improvement. You would think for this entire offseason, you signed some new guys all in the state of Florida. Maybe I'll have some buy-in, Charlie Strong. Maybe you see some improvement. Maybe Kerwin Bell, is that his name, coming in as a new offensive coordinator? Nothing. And, I'm not going to blow my prediction early, but they go to Georgia Tech and Atlanta next week. It's not looking good, fellas.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in Kerwin's inability to put points on the board. And I'm calling it. I mean, I already called it before, but Strong doesn't survive this season.
Yeah, I thought you were wrong on that. I give me a month, but I still think I'm going to hold out a little more hold. But there's not a lot to convince me he's going to stay. It's not.
Yeah. The real question is now: does he last the whole season? Do they before they act something?
Right. Oh.
I just one game, and Wisconsin's a good team with a great running back, probably the best running back.
Right.
But to put up 0 points, and you have this new offensive coordinator come in and to lay a goose egg. It's at home. It's not good.
Very, very bad. So, man, let's hope the Bulls turn that around for the sake of the American, for the sake of Charlie Strong.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, man. Well, that means that this is a shorter week for talking, Chris, because 2 other teams already faced off earlier in week 0. So week 0, week 1 certainly had its ups and downs, but still a fun way to start the season, correct?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep. Very, very
College
exciting.
football is back, and I love it. So.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, week 2, we can do a little bit of a preview here so everybody knows kind of what games to expect, right?
Yeah. We'll go a rundown of what's going on.
Yeah. We tend to be a more reactive show, so, given that, we'll have some thoughts on the matchups coming up. So, what do the Gators have in store week 2?
The Swamp UT Martin comes into town, and this is one of those games where you want to just get in, get a big victory, and get out. Don't have your starting corner in while you're up 45-0.
Ooh, shout out UCF. Nice.
Yes, don't do that. I don't think Frank should see the second half.
Good point.
I want to see P. Ryan. I want to show that we can run the ball, and then get P. Ryan out. I want to see a lot of Emory Jones. I want to see how he does. I want to spread. We have a ton of receivers. I know they can catch. I want to see if we can incorporate the tight ends a little bit more. I just want to see. Just show me for a half that you can. Then, just throw in the walk-ons.
Okay. Sure.
That's all I want. Don't do anything crazy. Defense, show that you're still and that Miami wasn't a fluke. That you're really good, especially getting to the quarterback.
Right.
Just get in, get the victory, get out. That's what I want.
All right. And I think for Florida State, they're going to host Louisiana Monroe. Pretty similar concept. Now, Lucy Monroe is not going to be as easy as UT Martin because they are a Sun Belt squad, and Evans is a pretty decent quarterback for them. He's a returning starter. But I still don't feel like there's any need for concern with covering maybe the 34-ish point spread. I feel like they still will do that comfortably. You know, if your walk-ons for Florida State can do any better in the second half than your original starters in the Boise State game, then there's really not a whole lot of reason for concern. Avoiding injuries in very thin spots is what I'm going to give advice to the Noles. Do not overwork the offensive line. Even get the really bad guys to play the entire second half because we just don't have any depth there, and we cannot afford to lose anybody. We did have a scare with Brady Scott. He did get injured but came back into the game, but we are scarcely thin at that position, so no injuries there. And get your defense some work. Get your playmakers involved in the first and second quarter, and then just let the skill. I mean, just seeing how the depth of Florida State has a wide receiver. Get your 7th, 8th, and 9th string guys some touchdowns. That can happen in this game, and it should.
I think it'll be a little closer than it should be. But I think FSU should win. I mean, it's not. I don't think they're not going to lose. Closer, just because I can just see them and the fans too just being down from last week. It might take them a game to get back into it.
Yeah, but at least we have something exciting. You know, like last year when we started the season against Vautech, we had 3 major points to going into Sanford. And this is a whole different team, and they're cohesive. I think they're going to be good to go. This one will be a night game too, so that'll help. Not as hot. I think it's a 5 o'clock kick, assuming everything in Florida stays on schedule, right?
Yeah, and 5 o'clock's an odd time.
Yeah,
usually it's like 3:30, noon, 7 or 8. Like,
we're not a marquee program right now, and they're not a marquee opponent, so I'll take it. And that's probably a lot to do with the new ACC network launch. They want to kind of spread them out, I'm guessing.
Okay.
That's a thought.
I can see that. Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right, speaking of the ACC, we're going to transition to Miami, and they're going on the road to North Carolina. And interesting game. See how Miami's going to respond, how they're going to try to confuse how the freshman quarterback for North Carolina. I think Miami should win this game. I think the spread's at like 5.
Yeah.
I'd say Miami by 3. I think North Carolina's going to give them all that they can handle, but I would say Miami by 3.
Okay. It's hard to know how much Miami will win by, but I say they win comfortably. I'll take them by a touchdown. But we're both taking the Canes. UNC, though, certainly did impress in the win over South Carolina.
Yeah.
And yes, Mac Brown was almost in tears at his post game when they did the post game interview. And Sam Howell, let's not forget, this was a quarterback Florida State was supposed to have, and who knows, might have started for us instead. Who know? You know, there's no telling where this season would have gone with him. Anyway, doesn't matter now. And this is the only one of 2 times I think this entire year Miami leaves the state of Florida. So I'm be interested to see how that affects them going on the road. I don't think too much, and. You know, they played a really good Florida team week 1, had some mistakes that had an extra week to get ready. So I think they should be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I watch out for North Carolina. A little sneaky right now, but
yes,
Miami
indeed.
should.
All right, I'm going to switch over to the South Florida Bulls. They are going up to Atlanta to play Georgia Tech, and this is a close one too. Like Georgia Tech preseason. Probably only get 3 or 4 wins. You're coming out of the triple option. You got a different type of offensive scheme, new head coach. And if it hadn't been for last week's performance, I would have taken the Bulls here. But I'm going to switch my pick as of today. I'm going to take the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets to win this one at home. And I don't think this is a crazy pick. They are, I think, favored by 3 or 4. And, you know, this may be their only non-conference win of the year. We'll see. I just don't see any way that the Bulls can pull it together this quick. They've got a lot of questions.
Yeah, I have 0 faith in South Florida right now. 0. So I see Georgia Tech winning comfortably.
Okay. Are we actually going to disagree on this? We might not. That's fine.
I don't know. I might just pick something up just to mess with you.
I thought that one might be different, but we're We're across the board. By the way, we're going to keeping track of these so far. To this point, you and I are both 4-2.
Oh, okay.
We were wrong on Florida State and the Panthers. Got everyone else right.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, all right.
Okay.
And then the last game will be a matchup of an all-Florida team, right? All-4 team matchup, I should say.
Yeah.
These UCF.
Well, we have.
Well, the next one, yeah. Sorry. The UCF Knights of Orlando travel to Boca Raton to play the FAU Owls, and this is probably one of the biggest games FAU's ever hosted.
Yeah, it's got to be up there.
Yeah, it's
for a UCF team to come to them. That's pretty big.
Yeah, I agree. And Hurricane Dorian is making its way, of course, across the middle of the ocean. So as of right now, this is going to be Tuesday that this is going to be released. That the game still is scheduled. We'll obviously let you know on Twitter if something changes, but yeah, it'd be kind of fun. Chris, you and I probably ended up at this game to watch it live.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've been to a Miami FAU game in Miami. Excited to go to Boca and see a game and see UCF. This also might be my first UCF game that I've ever been to.
Okay.
So I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see how FAU responds. Do they even make it close for a little bit? I don't see it going that way.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how many UCF fans are in the stadium. Being so close to FAU.
Sure. A little over
3
hour drive. Yeah, and from what I can tell so far, nearly a sold out game. There's still some tickets left, and UCF alumni really have a big presence at the tailgate and everything. But it always fun to see a game live, and always good to see some new teams. I've never seen their stadium, so that'll be kind of fun. I did see them play FAU last year in Orlando, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how they play at home. Don't know that that's going to change the outcome. I still think UCF wins comfortably.
Yeah, I was looking at the spread is 10. UCF, I don't.
Whoa.
How?
Yeah, they're going to win by
I don't understand.
17 or 20. That's not even going to be that close.
I would say 3 touchdowns. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where? I don't know. Maybe they know something about the lane train that we don't know. But
he's got a ton of trick plays he didn't show. I don't know. I have no idea.
Very possible.
All right, and you're right. I did forget there is one more game. We got to talk about the Panthers, of course. My mistake.
Oh yeah. They host Western Kentucky. Should be a game that I would presume that they were going to win. Who knows after last week's show? You think back home, maybe there's some distraction with the hurricane, but they should win this game. They do have to watch out. Western Kentucky's running back Walker last game had 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, so they got to keep an eye on them. And they know they didn't really stop Tulane last week, so if they focus on him and get Morgan going, they should be okay.
I'm going to agree with you, as boring as that sounds. We have all the same picks. But, yeah, you get Morgan in a rhythm. You get him at comfortable, settled in at home. He should be fine. Western Kentucky just doesn't have the talent, and they're still coming off of huge rebuilds and bouncing conferences. So I'll take the Panthers at home also.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, man. Well, that's it for week 0. Week 1, it's in the books. Week 2 coming up. Always excited. Chris, how can fans reach out to us if they had feedback on our takes or maybe our predictions for the upcoming week? How can they send us that feedback?
All right, yes. Hit us up at floridafocuspodcast.com. You can reach out all the avenues and outlets through there. Let us know. Send an email to us. Let us know at what game do you think they're going to fire Charlie Strong. We'll have to see. Just curious at what game, how far into the season he gets. And any other questions, comments, concerns, let us know. Hit us up.
Yeah, that's a really good one. There is one thing I wanted to share with the fans, and I don't know that I even clarified with you this as well, Chris. But here's something we're gonna do, and we're gonna make this a whole season long submission, if you will. From the website, you can reach out to us however you feel comfortable. But I would love to hear from the fans. You've all been to a lot of games, a lot of stadiums. You've seen a lot of college football. What is your number one best memory of like an in-person game you saw? And I'm going to give a prize to whoever sends in submission. We're going to make it. It's going to be a random drawing. So basically, by submitting one, you're entering for a chance to win this prize, and it's not going to be just a thank you card. It's going to be something pretty big. So send it in. I really want to hear from people because these are the stories that I love, and people sometimes define their entire lives or entire fandom by one single moment, and I would love to hear from people what that is.
Yeah, that's a good one. I kind of want to do. I'm gonna email in my own now.
Ooh, I love it.
Just so I can get the.
You want a chance to win too? Yeah, and I will probably have a reminder for this every week, just so people, no matter what episode they catch us with, they can still send that in. But a pretty big prize. I think maybe halfway through the year I'll announce what that prize is. It's pretty good.
It's a fridge. I know. It's a whirlpool. I know.
Yep, we just have to wait and see.
Calling it.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, we look forward to those submissions. What is your number one in-person college football game experience? And how often, or excuse me, how quickly do you think Charlie Strong will be fired? If we think of any others, we'll be able to.
How often? How often might be pretty accurate.
Right. It was a slip, but it actually worked out not too badly. Another way that we'd appreciate feedback is on whatever podcast player of choice that you listen to us on, leaving us a rating and leaving us some feedback in the form of a comment as well. That would really help us improve the show. So, given all that, Chris, is there any last thoughts you have before we sign off and pass it on to week 2?
No, excited. Like I said, excited that we're getting into college football and looking forward to our teams going forward and improving and seeing what the rest of the season has to give us.
Well said. Couldn't agree more. Thanks for listening, everybody, the whole entire community. And this is Brandon saying, go Noles.
Go Gators.